Good evening and welcome to the third episode of the PEPP Story, where I'm hoping to help you in the next month, by the end of January, to become an outstanding speaker. And tonight we're going to be talking about purpose. Hi, good evening and welcome to the show tonight, third episode. And tonight we're going to be talking about purpose. Now, it's the PEPP Story approach. And I've sort of evolved this formula, the PEPP Story, as I talked about last night. I'm just trying to take it apart now over this week to get you to understand these 5 basic elements that make any story a great story. And if you look at any of the great speeches that anyone has ever made, you'll find that these 5 elements are there. They're crucial. If you don't put them in, the speech will really struggle to make a big success. And those are purpose, experience, passion, performance, and story. Clear sense of purpose, talk from experience, engage your passion, perform, don't just deliver, and make sure you fill your speech full of stories. That's what we're trying to do. And what I want to do is to take each of those parts and break them apart a little bit more so it becomes clear about how you can make this work. And so tonight we're talking about purpose. There are 3 elements really when you start to look at purpose. Excuse me while I just get a drink here. The first thing we've got to think about is what's your purpose? Why are you doing this? Why are you getting up and speech? What do you want to achieve as a result of delivering a speech? And you have to have some goal, some objective. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it? And if you haven't got a clear sense of why you're doing it, then it will really fall apart. And I've unfortunately seen this a lot. For about 10 years throughout the 1990s, I ran or helped to run for a quite large organization, a series of road shows all the way around the country. We did almost one a month throughout the whole of the 10 years, helping life insurance, financial advisors to get to grips with the technology that was coming in. You've got to remember at the beginning of the 90s, we'd only just got Windows, the internet had just been invented. So through that 10-year period, there was a dramatic change as we all started to come to terms with the new technology that we now just take for granted. Now, it was funded by a large number of insurance companies and technology companies. So most of the speakers at the conference were participants. They were the insurance companies who were funding it, the technology companies who were there trying to sell their technology and their brands of support to the financial advisors. And we provided slots for them to speak. It was my job to both speak, chair the meeting, and to select the speakers and coach them to make sure they were good. The battles I had with people turning up at the last minute with speeches. And the worst trick of all, grab a colleague's presentation on the way out. They did that last time, I'll do the same one this time. And it never works because always halfway through the presentation, the speaker will think, oh, not sure what that slide's about, so we'll just go on to the next one. I'm running out of time, so I'll just race through the next. PowerPoint, death by PowerPoint. Now, I'm not suggesting you don't use PowerPoint. I'm using little lower thirds here, just something I'm using in my software system. I use PowerPoint a lot, and it's a very useful tool when used properly. But it's one of those crutches that people tend to rely on. I've got my PowerPoint. I've written it all down on slides. I'll just get up there and wing it and read stuff off the slides. And that's not a purpose. That's not an objective. That's not setting out to change things and make things happen. If you're going to do a speech, you want something to happen. Now, here's my 3. I have 3 clear objectives when I'm delivering a speech, and they're very, very simple. At the end of the speech, I want you, number 1, to remember my message. I need you to remember what it was I was talking about. What was the purpose of my speech? And if I haven't got a clear message, how on earth are you going to remember it? So there's the number 1 challenge that we've got. If I don't have a good message, you won't have anything to remember. And the thing you think is, when you go to a conference, often there are 10, 15, 20 speakers. You're at concurrent sessions. You've got coffee break sessions. You're maybe there for a couple of days. There's stuff pouring in from all directions. If the speaker has 20 points to make, you're not going to remember those. Yeah. Now, remember my message. It needs to be really honed down so that I've got one message. We're going to come back to that in a minute. The second thing is I want you to remember my name. Now, I'm a speaker, so as an individual speaker, I want you to remember. I don't want you to go say, there was this really great speech on climbing Mount Everest. Who was the speaker? I can't remember. What was it? There are lots of speakers who speak on climbing Mount Everest. But if you can't remember that it was my name, by the way, I've never climbed Mount Everest, don't plan to, but I have friends who have. So if you don't know my name, okay, if you go away and think, there was this transgender speaker, I can't remember her name. Or worse, can't remember his name. That's what the one that happens for me. I need you to understand me. So I put a bit of me into my speeches always because I want you to remember Ricky Arundel and not think, oh, God, who was the name of that speaker? When you talk about the great speech tomorrow, when you share it on social media, I want you to mention Ricky Arundel's speech was really good. So really important that you remember my name. But then the most important thing of all, I want you to take action. I want you to do something. I've spoken. I've given you some ideas. I've talked about something. I want you to do something today. At the end of this presentation, I want you to think about purpose. And we haven't finished it yet, but I want you to think about what's your purpose. The speeches you're going to deliver. What is the purpose? What is the objective? And even if it's just a management report, why? Why are you doing it? If you're delivering a management report at a meeting, why? Why not just hand it out? Let them read it. There must be some benefit that comes out of you delivering it. And that's about what you put in, and that's about your purpose, your goal, your mission, the message, the action you want them to take as a result of that. We need to get sales up. We want to pat ourselves on the back. We're, whatever it is, restructuring, rethinking, whatever's going on, there needs to be a clear call to action at the end of your presentation. Probably should have put that as a slide. So just remember those as we'll take them. Remember my message. Okay. Remember my name, take action. That's the 3 goals that I'm looking for. And really in the middle of that, and I've already talked about it, is the audience can't remember very much. It's no good. And if you know what it's like. And you're listening to a speaker, right? My 15 tips for how to, by the time they get to number 6, you've forgotten the first 3. And by the time you get to the end, you've confused them all. You probably won't go away with any. Out of 15 tips, you'll probably remember not one single one. Far better if I said there is one thing you need to do to improve your sales. And I hit you with that over and over again. Clear sense of purpose. See, this is why I'm breaking these presentations down into separate ones. Yes, they are talked about PEPP Story. Purpose, experience, passion, performance, and story. And I keep repeating those because I unfortunately have a product which has got 5 messages in it. So I need to get you to remember that. I can't just expect you to remember. I know you won't. 5, far too many. You'd have probably got it at 3, but this is 5. So I've used a mnemonic, PEPP Story, purpose, experience, passion, performance, story. And I keep repeating it. I'll keep repeating it throughout the whole of this program. You'll remember it. It'll just get embedded because that's how we deal with it. Just got to get you to remember those things. So the audience doesn't remember very much, so don't give them a hard time. If you want to be the one that's taken away, the one they remember, single story, keep on reminding them of what that story is. So this is what we've got. One clear message. Look for it in whatever you can. And if it's possible, if it's actually possible, make it in part of the title. And that's what I've always said. One of the best speeches, and I think I mentioned this yesterday, one of the best speeches I've ever seen, speech by a blind pianist, and it was called The Magic Begins When the Speaker Listens. That was it. The whole presentation was all about listening. And this is a blind man talking about listening because listening is what he has to do in order to navigate the world. He only sees the world through sound, through what he hears. And he talks about the value of sound and how people need to be listening much more to what's happening, listening to what's around them, listening to what's being said, because only then can you start to make sense of what's going on. I am very auditory. I like to listen. So make it, if you can, make it the title of your message. That's what I've done with this. PEPP Story, I want you to remember it all the time. Make it memorable in any way you can. One of the best ways to make something memorable is make it ludicrous, make it outrageous, have outrageous images. I'm not doing that here, but it's another way to do it. Just make things as memorable as possible, and don't confuse people. Stick to the one message. And if you've got sub-messages coming on and other stories, keep coming back. There's a story about Niall Bevan, the great orator and Labour politician, the inventor of the National Health Service. And he was delivering a speech at one particular time. He had this big stack of sheets of paper, or small slips of paper in his hand. And every so often he'd look at the paper, he'd tear off one of the slips and throw it away and keep going. And so somebody thought it was really interesting. I'd like to see how he keeps his notes. And so they gathered them all up after he'd left, and they looked at it and they saw written on every single piece of paper was the title of the speech. Purpose. Clear sense of purpose, single message. Keep coming back to it. Keep coming back to it. You can go off. You can tell stories and illustrations. We're going to be talking about that through the week. But you keep coming back to that clear, single sense of purpose. Now, there are 4 possible speech objectives. And only 4. There are only 4 possible things that you can set out to achieve with a speech. And the most important thing is you have to pick one of them as your primary goal. You can actually mix them up, but let's have a look at it. The first is a speech to inform. And that's the kind of speech we often do. We often do it at work. We often do it in all, at hobby fairs, all sorts of things. Professional speakers often, I do speeches to inform. I do speeches on transgender awareness, speeches on understanding the law, speeches on how-to speeches. These are speeches to inform. And my goal is to educate people. So at the end of the speech, people have a better understanding of something, a better understanding of the policy, better understanding of how they're supposed to act, diversity. Those are all the issues I'm dealing with. And it, very often a speech to inform, and sometimes it's a 3-4 hour presentation or a workshop. So that's number one. Number 2 is a speech to persuade. Now, that will be like the sales presentation you might make, or if I want to persuade you to vote for me at the next election, if I want to persuade you to invest in my project, invest in my business, donate to my charity. Those are the kind of speeches where your objective is to persuade people to take action. And that's the key part of a persuasive speech. There's always a very strong action at the end of the speech. You've got to take action. I need you to do this. Go to my website, go to my this, go to my that. And that's your goal. Then there's the speech to motivate or inspire. That's the kind of speech you might do, end of year speech to the staff, the speech to the team before you go out to try and win the cup or win the next game. It's the kind of speech you might see in drama. Shakespeare wrote some fabulous inspirational speeches. Henry V's speech of Crispin Day speech to inspire his soldiers to go and fight against an army that was significantly more powerful and fresher than they were. Great, fabulous, inspirational speech. And, they're the kind of speeches we sometimes have to do, where our goal is to get people on side, make people feel good about themselves. And it's not about new information. It's not about persuasion. It's actually about making people feel good about themselves so they can go forward. And finally, there's the speech to entertain. The after-dinner speech, the humorous speech, the dramatic speech, the scene. And I've heard lots of these: sailing around the world, climbing Mount Everest, just funny stories of what happened at the World Cup, and stories. Lots of sports personalities make a whole career, and politicians make a whole career telling stories about their life in that particular high-profile position. And those are entertainment speeches. Now, can an informative speech be entertaining? Yes, of course it can. Absolutely, no question at all about that. You can make an informative speech entertaining. A persuasive speech can be entertaining. A motivational speech can be entertaining, but you have to be clear of what the primary objective is. When I first started work, there were a lot of videos that came out. John Cleese ran them from Video Arts, and they were incredibly funny training videos. The problem was that in almost every case, the funny bit was doing it wrong. Who sold you this then? And how not to exhibit yourself? And I remembered from there's all these very humorous sketches of John Cleese and friends doing everything wrong. And then somebody would come in and do it all right. And the problem was I never remembered the right bit. I could only remember the wrong bit. Now, fortunately for me, I could actually twist it and think, okay, fine, remember, let's not do that. But very often it was difficult to remember specifically what to do right because it was very funny showing the wrong bits. What was going wrong with those video arts programs was that too much of the focus was on the entertainment instead of on the information, which is what it should have been. It should have been an informative speech showing us how to do it right, and then a little bit of an aside to say, this is what happens when you do it wrong. But so let's get back, but keep reinforcing the good. I didn't get that short video. So bear in mind that you can be persuasive, motivational, informative, and entertaining all in the same speech. But one of those must be your primary goal. And everything else then falls away from it, that you must make sure that you achieve that objective. So getting a very clear, solid, single message, embed it into the title, make sure that you're identified on whether you're informing, persuading, motivating, or entertaining, and get that as your primary objective. And you're starting to get a speech which has a real sense of direction. And that will take the audience with you. And add into that the one thing, what about your life purpose? What about yours? Now, if you run your own business, if you're running a charity, look at Eddie Izzard at the moment. I am so inspired by him. Let me get this right. Eddie has changed gender and is now identifying as she. And she is out there doing a marathon a day throughout the whole of January, inspiring people to donate money into the cause. I've forgotten what the cause is now, but I'll have to come back to it. I'll remember that by tomorrow. I'll have a little look. I checked it out a couple of days ago. I didn't get a chance today. But every day online, you'll find Eddie is running for a cause. Now, I'm doing shows and all very really, really well organized and put together. All part of the purpose. Eddie's been doing this running for causes, the 27 marathons in 27 days to celebrate the Nelson Mandela fabulous causes. So think about this. What is your purpose in life? How does your speech blend into your purpose? What is your why? And is this speech really supporting your purpose, your why, where you're going? And we'll come back to this a little bit later in the program. So I'll be back tomorrow for day 3. Forgot to edit that. Day 4, actually, it's going to be the 4th day of the program. Remember, if you need speaker coaching, then I'm available here. I'm doing speaking coaching on a regular basis now. All you have to do is to drop me an email, ricky@rickyarundel.com. Free 30-minute session. We can talk about how I can help and how it can all put together. And, pretty reasonable price as well. So we'll get back to that. Do drop me a line if you're interested in some coaching, and I can give you more details. Putting a website together this week as well, which will have more information on that. Anyway, that's it for the program. So join me tomorrow. I'm going to be back talking tomorrow about expertise, the second purpose: experience, passion, performance, and story. Tomorrow is all going to be about experience and expertise and the importance of that in what we do. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Hope you've enjoyed today, and take care.